talk about the home studio. The home studio is very similar to our last lesson, the fact that we're going to be using a computer and music editing software. But in this case, we're going to use a digital input device to allow us to record more than one audio signal at the same time. In other words, multi-track recording. And generally speaking, we're talking about higher quality microphones as well. Not necessarily really expensive equipment, but definitely the next upgrade from what we've done in our last lesson. I actually provide a very good example of a professional musician who can benefit from having a home studio. I write for Mel Bay Publications, and what I'll commonly do to provide the recording of the examples that are in the book is I'll use a pre-existing jam track. I'll import that into my session, and then I'll add a harmonica on top of it. I might add acoustic harmonica, just playing in front of a microphone, or amplified harmonica, where I'll place a microphone in front of one of my favorite amplifiers. For bluesharmonica.com, that's another good example. I brought John Lawton in to record some of the accompaniment material. He played to an existing jam track, both guitar and sang at the same time. So I had a microphone on his guitar amp and a microphone for his voice. I also had a track, Blues Creepin' Over Me, that he recorded just guitar. And then I brought in Gary Smith after the fact, and he recorded his voice and harmonica, for example. Now, I can record multiple musicians, not just two inputs in this case, at the same time. We're here at School of Blues in San Jose, California. In my teaching room, it's about 200 square feet, so it's not that large, but I can stuff some musicians in here. So let's say that we have guitar, harmonica, bass, and maybe just a snare and a hi-hat. You can get away with just using one microphone that's situated between the snare and the hi-hat, and you can record them all at the same time. The idea is each person has their own microphone, and you can control them separately, their volume and also the tone adjustments that you do, their EQ, also adding any effects like reverb or delay. Now, if we have everyone in the same room, we'll achieve what's called bleed. In other words, the pop of the snare is going to be recorded or bleeded into the other microphones for the other instruments. In this case, since we're all playing together, it's not so much of an issue. But let's say the harmonica, me, makes a mistake. So if I make a mistake, the problem is the sound from my amplifier has bled into the other microphones. So if I, after the fact, want to re-record the harmonica part, it won't work because the ghosting of the original recording of the harmonica will be on the other microphones. Now, depending on how your home or your office is situated, you could take the microphone that goes in front of the amplifier that you're recording. You can actually have a cable go underneath the door, go in underneath another door, say a bedroom or a bathroom has been known for creating great ambient harmonica tone, and you have your harmonica amp in there. So you need to have your harmonica mic cable going through both those doors, as well as a microphone cable that will go into the recording system. So that amplifier is in its own room. It's isolated, in other words, and it's not going to be bleeding into the other instruments' microphones. So if the harmonica is the most important, and we know it is, then you can always re-record your parts without having any problems with bleed from your mic into the other instruments' microphones. And you can do that with all the instruments, but to a certain degree, a home's really not set up that way. A professional studio will have a central room commonly, and then it'll be surrounded by other smaller isolated rooms that also have windows so that everyone can see each other. So generally speaking, for a project, it's most common, or a project home studio, it's more common to go to a larger studio to record the full band. Then you bring those mixed tracks to your home studio, and then you go ahead and add harmonica on top of it. And that's what I commonly use. And that's also very common, again, as a professional musician. It's common for musicians to send me a track, and then what I'll do is I'll import that into my session, and then I'll record my harmonica on top of it, providing them multiple examples. And then when I provide them the file, I provide them the file with the harmonica only. So they simply import it into their session, and put it right on top of the original track. And they can layer multiple instruments. And it's also a very convenient way of recording for other people without actually having to travel to a studio, set up, tear down, and drive home. Because I'm very familiar with my amplifiers, my recording software, my microphones. So I'm able to provide a very high quality product for the musicians that I'm recording for.